So you want to be a trail runner, eh? Well, I'm Coach Morgan from the Run Experience, and today we are talking about the best ways to transition from the roads to the trails. And because who wouldn't want to be running out here? Obviously. Now, I'm going to put a little pause on you guys there for those of you who have been running roads for a while and you think, I can just go out there and do my long run on the trails. I have the endurance and I'm in shape for it. Well, let's take a step back. I do want to talk about all the different things that your body goes through, all the differences between roads and trails, and you may think a couple of them are very obvious, but think of this as a whole new sport. Your body's going to react in different ways. This is different terrain out here. We're in a whole different area. So I'm going to go over with you all the best ways to do this, so tune in. Trail running has become increasingly popular, especially over the past few years. Road runners are finding the new challenges that trail running has very intriguing. They like to come out here, especially if they've been focused so much on their time and their splits on the road and being fast. They find it very relaxing and meditative to be out here on the trails where, yes, time does matter, but you not have to be constantly looking at your watch, making sure that every single mile you're hitting those splits. So it's gotta get out of your head a little bit and you get to focus on the run. Trail running brings different challenges such as elevation gain. Coming from a road running background, you may have experienced some just rolling hills where you got to go up for maybe a quarter of a mile and coming back down. But out here in the trails, if you're out in the mountains, you're going to have long, grueling climbs on a lot of your races or courses or long runs. I'm talking about a couple miles where it is steep. It can be somewhere up to 20% elevation, which if you're on a treadmill, most of them only go up to about 15 on that elevation. So just think about that for a couple of miles over different types of terrain. You could be going through the woods, you could have technical terrain where there are rocks and roots and everything else around you. So that's something that you have to get used to. And especially road runners, you are used to having a pretty consistent heart rate during your races and a faster pace. But out here on the trails, that pace is going to be a lot slower when you're going up those hills and your heart rate is going to be a lot higher. And that may scare a lot of you, especially because it's going to be raised for such a long period of time. So getting used to that, being able to just take a deep breath while you're on those hills and just continue to climb and getting those climbing legs in is something that you're going to have to get used to if you want to be out here and run on the trails. So let's talk about a couple of safety challenges that trail running brings. Now, can you hear how quiet it is out here? You're going to be out here a lot of times on your own by yourself, and it's pretty isolated. There's not going to be many people around, especially if you have to do early morning or later night runs. That's something to consider, and making sure that you're always having a game plan for if you get injured, if you run out of fuel, anything like that, because you're not just on the roads where you can call an Uber, call a friend to come pick you up, drive, and get you. You're out here going to be a lot of times by yourself, so you need to have a game plan. Now, while there may not be a lot of people out here, there are a lot of animals. And while I've run on this trail many a times and little bunny rabbits have darted across and I have to kind of jump around and be prepared, and I actually didn't know if it was going to be a bunny or a bobcat, and those are two different situations. So also having a game plan with that, and depending on where you live, you have to think about certain kinds of snakes being out on the trails. I just ran a trail run up in the Canadian Rockies where it was mandatory to have bear spray. Those are things that you have to think about. Where you're running is super important. Now, to help you guys build confidence and be prepared out there for all the challenging terrain and elevation gain, we're going to go over a couple of strength movements that you can add in to make sure that your body is fit and ready to run on these trails. Now, while I know you've all been good at road running, you've been adding your strength training in there, trail running strength training is going to be a little different because we're working all those little stability muscles to help keep you confident and strong when you have to navigate and be quick and light on your feet. This is also going to be the difference between rolling an ankle out here when you're super tired and you really just want to collapse everything in, that you're strong enough to keep in that nice good run form so that you can handle anything that the trail throws at you. So the first thing that we're going to go over is we're going to be doing a single leg box jump. We're going to be doing this single-leggedly, once again, to help that landing process. You have that balance and that stability. Say that you need to jump over a log, run upstairs in the middle of your run. This is a trail out here in the headlands, so yes, that is a real thing. So to do this, there's two different ways. You can either start with both feet planted on the ground and land single-leggedly, Or to add a little bit more of a challenge, you can just stay single leg the entire time. Before I do this, I like to think of spreading my toes out, creating a nice base for myself here. I want to have a nice soft knee, so a little bit of a bend in it all the time. Roll my shoulders back, keep my core on nice and tight. I really want to think and make sure that I'm activating this glute here, giving it a nice big squeeze. And I'm going to do the single leg. I'm going to take a sit back a little bit here. And I'm going to jump up, stick the landing, and come back up. And then I can step back down. Or, once again, you can stay with both feet here, and you can jump up and practice landing on that single leg, nailing it, giving a big squeeze of the glutes at the top, and coming back down. So, the next movement we're going to do is some lateral jumps, some side-to-side movements. Really want to make sure we're strengthening the sides of the body here, those hips specifically, because unlike road running where you're just pretty much going to be going in that forward motion the whole time, trail running you're going to be up and down, over and around, all those fun different movements. So we want to be strong in that position so that when an animal comes out in front of us or there's a log, a twig, we can react quickly and we have no problem moving in that sideways direction. So first things first, we're going to set up just like we did for the jumps there. We're going to have a nice soft knee, spreading out those toes, keeping that glute engaged here and keeping those core on nice and tight. We also want to keep a tall chest here. We're going to balance on that one leg and we are going to jump as far to the other side as we can. Once you stick the landing, coming back, and feel free, use your arms as well too to help you balance. That comes in handy, especially when you're trying to go downhill and you have that ability to just like help balance yourself. So all comes into play here. Sticking the landing, jumping, coming back up. That's it. All right, the last one I have here for you is we're going to be taking a little piece of the first movement and the second movement and mushing them into this one to work on some fast feet here. So once again, single leg, we're going to be focusing here on quick movements, forward and back as fast as we can, keeping that core on nice and tight. Now, we'll be here for about 10 seconds or so, and then you're going to switch over going laterally. Same thing, as fast as you can, as soon as that foot's hitting the ground, it's jumping back and forth. This is going to get that heart rate up a little bit, but we're also focusing once again on those fast feet. When we trail run, we tend to get in the habit of those long, slow, sloggy miles. We're just kind of out here relaxing, but you want to have your fast twitch muscle fibers able to turn on really quick because especially when you're coming up over an unknown obstacle, you want to be able to react quickly. I've also noticed it helps me the most when coming down a technical terrain downhill because you're going to have all these rocks and roots in the way and you're not going to have enough time to really think about where you're going to be putting your feet. Your body should just have to know where to put your feet and you can go and cruise down those hills. Now, you can take each of these movements here and put them into a little workout while you're trail running to help you feel more confident out here on the trails. What you're going to do is 60 seconds on and 30 seconds off of each movement. But remember, the first one we did with the box jumps, they're going to be each leg, so 1 minute on each leg. I know it might seem like a lot, but take that 30 seconds, kind of shake everything out. On your lateral, big side-to-side jumps, you just need to do a minute there, 30 seconds off. And the last ones where we're doing the little hops forward and back, side to side, try to go about 10 seconds in each direction. So 10 seconds forward and back, 10 seconds side to side, and switch on and off through that for 60 seconds on each leg. Go through about 2 or 3 rounds here, maybe you need to do a few more rounds, a few less, whatever you're comfortable with, but just make sure you're getting into these movements into your schedule. Now, let's talk about nutrition on the trails. For me personally, this was one of the hardest things for me to wrap my head around because when I was doing my long runs on the roads, I would maybe take about 8 ounces of water and I would have a gel or 2. Now for my long runs on the trails, I'm filling up both of these guys, both of them. One is filled with some kind of hydration beverage like Noon or something like that with electrolytes in it. And the other one is just straight water. And I still get done feeling like, wow, I could really use a gallon of water. Because it doesn't matter how long you're going, but say you were doing 5 miles on the road versus 5 miles on the trails, that trail run is going to take you a lot longer. That trail run could have a ton of elevation. You can incur other obstacles out here. So you always want to be prepared and you definitely need to get that additional hydration in. It's going to help sustain you out here. Now let's talk briefly on fuel out here. And before I jump into that, I do want to say that I'm not Coach Elizabeth. I am not a nutritionist, but she is, and she has lots of other videos on how to fuel for your long runs, how to fuel for any kind of run that you're looking for. So you can go ahead and watch some of those videos if you want a more in-depth conversation on that. I'm just going to give you a little brief overview, some additional little things to think about here on the trails. Now, if you're ever wondering why you may have seen an assortment of candies and cookies and pizza and all sorts of fun stuff at aid stations during a trail race, is because they know that runners can handle those solid foods out here during the runs. Your body's going a lot slower out here on the trails, so it can digest all the solid foods. Unlike in a marathon where you kind of need that really spike quick energy out on the roads because you're going at those faster paces the whole time, the solid food sometimes doesn't go down as easily because it's diverting all the blood from your gut to all the working muscles, so it's not really focused on digestion. Out here on the trails, it can be. I like to start off with the Pro Bar chews. There's about 10 chews in here, so I'll take 2 or 3 at a time to help me just kind of sustain that energy, keep my fuel levels up. When I need something really spike my energy, if I'm feeling a lull or I have a hill coming up, I like the Spring Energy gels. They go down really easy, it's real food, and it sits well in my stomach, and that gives me that little burst of energy that I need, where these are more my sustained energy. Now, these are just my personal favorites. Do a lot of testing out here on the trails. It's a really great place to actually test it out, because if you don't like it, you don't have to take the whole thing with you. You can just stuff it back in your vest and pick something else out. And I know you're probably wondering, well, how do I carry all these different fun flavors? Well, we're gonna get into gear in just a second. All right, so let's talk about the gear that you might need out here, especially if you are out here for some longer distances or some longer time on feet. These things are gonna come in handy. I'm not saying that you have to go out and buy all this new stuff, but these are some things that you can think about if you're having a little bit of trouble out here on the trails and you need a little extra help. So let's talk about some trail running shoes. These are specifically designed to help you navigate the terrain out here. They're generally going to be a little bit stiffer on the bottom compared to your road shoes. Now these ones here I can still bend, but right here around the arch, they're really not going to bend. They're going to help me protect my foot so that when I step on rocks and things like that, I'm not going to feel it shoot up into my feet. They're also going to have these specially designed lugs on here to help get over sand and gravel and help your foot stay in place as you're going. So that's something, especially if you're doing the longer distances, I would really suggest them. But if you're maybe just out here with some like manicured trails, you may be able to get away for some regular road shoes. I'm not saying that you have to go out and buy all this gear I'm about to show you, but if you're looking for a little extra help, these are definitely going to be a good way to go. Now, as you can see here, I have my vest on. I'm all ready to go. I can pack this full. I really like to wear my vest when I'm doing my long runs because, like I said before, I got my 2 bottles. I can fit them down in here. Easy access for some quick hydration. I can fit all my fuel in the pockets here. If I need an extra jacket out here, I like to put like a little rain shell or something like that if the weather's going to be a little iffy, especially on my longer runs. How I start the weather might not end the same way. I could start out and be beautiful like this, and then all of a sudden the rain's going to come or it's going to get dark and cold. So I'd like to have that here because, once again, besides that biker, we're kind of out here by ourselves. So one thing that really helps save my legs out on the trails were my trekking poles. I took these on one of my latest long races, and they really saved my quads and my lower back, because on the super steep terrain, what you want to do is tend to roll over your back and put your hands on your legs here. But with the poles here, you can put them out. You're going to be maybe a little bit sore in the upper body, but it's going to help even out that pain and make those super steep hills really manageable. So you can stick these down here and be able to stay as upright as you possibly can and keep in that nice good run form the whole way. So one of the most technological pieces of gear out there is going to be a watch. This one here, I love my Garmin Phoenix because I can download maps onto there so that if I'm out in an area that I don't know, I can have the map right on my phone. I don't have to rely on having cell phone service because generally you don't have cell phone service out here. So I always feel like I at least can have this as a backup if I get lost. Also, the nice thing about some of these newer watches is they do have an assist function in them. So I know for my Garmin here, if I hold down my light button for about 5-ish seconds, it can alert one of my emergency contacts that I may need assistance, and that's super helpful if you're out here by yourself on the trails. Now, what makes this beautiful area so amazing to run in is you. Be sure to have some great trail etiquette out here. Pack up your trash, you have your whole vest on, have a little separate stash for garbage in there, take that with you, make sure to keep the trails clean, wave hello to your fellow trail runners, and have fun out there. So I couldn't well enough send you to the trails without giving you a little bit of the trail runner lingo, so let's do some rapid fire definitions.
Bonk.
Bonk, that is when you're out on the trail and you're feeling, oh, I can't go on anymore, but you got to get out of that bonk. Use it in a sentence, oh man, I really bonked out there on my 20-mile run, but I had to get out of it.
Gators.
No, not alligators. Well, maybe if you're trail running in Florida, but we're talking about gators that go over top of your shoes. Here it's a little protective shield that prevents rocks and sticks and leaves and whatever from getting in your shoes.
Vert.
We're talking about elevation gain here. Trail runners really don't care how many miles you're doing. They're really only caring about how steep are you going.
Western States.
This is the oldest 100-mile trail race and the most exclusive and hardest to get into here in the US, and it's held right here in California.
Squirrels nut butter.
Hey now, it's not what you think. It's actually an ointment that you put all over your body to prevent chafing. Now, I know we went over a lot today, but what we didn't touch on is how to actually get good on the running portion on this technical terrain. Lucky for you, Nate did a video on how to handle steep terrain. Go ahead and check it out over here, and I'll see you on the trails.